Hello, viewer. I'm Lorenzo, and this is episode 10 of Kerbal Space Colonization. We join the episode in deep space near the vessel imaginatively named the Baselander. It is headed for Eeloo, where it will attempt to land. Look at that sun, it's really small and far away. This has been in transit for years, and it will now attempt its landing, or at least orbital establishment. Let's bring up the HUD. I made a maneuver note that will happen in 1 minute. This is to alter our trajectory to get really close to Eeloo, and I'll start doing that in any second now. This is the least interesting bit of the episode, but I am joining you to give you some good news and some bad news. The good news is that this episode exists. In the previous episode or the one before that, I have frequently expressed doubt as to whether I'd be able to release an episode this week. Well, here it is. Immediately the bad news, it's going to be short and there's not going to be one on Sunday. This will be all you have for the whole weekend. Reason being that I'll be away the weekend. Probably not going to get one done on Wednesday either, but that means that if I do get one done, it will be there in the weekend, which I think is a better time to release it. If you add me on Twitter and retweet one of my things, yeah, let's say that, I'll give you sneak preview access if I manage to get it up and have to schedule it. Hell no, wait, that's really weird and fishy. No, I won't do that. No sneak preview access. All the content is there for everyone who wants it. Let's see what our burn did. Not really what was intended. I think we overshot by 1,000,000 miles. So we're gonna try and turn around. Here we go. This is reducing. No, this is now increasing. The reason I'm being extremely stingy with rocket thrust here is that a fairy told me that we're gonna need all the delta V that's gonna be available to us, and this is also the reason why I want to get as close to the surface as possible. Preferably literally 10 kilometers. 3 kilometers. Holy smokes, that's really gosh darn close. Actually, let's go to the other side of the planet, because then we'll be doing this in the sunlight, which is of course a lot better. 14 kilometers, that sounds decent. Throwing in a quick save there to prevent any weirdness, because now comes the bit where we'll be time warping for 13 days. 12 days from now we will get heavy aerodynamics, and for those of you that forgot why we want aerodynamics in our space program, it's because with heavy aerodynamics comes large liquid fuel only tanks, and that of course is very useful for nuclear thermal rockets. That's the sole reason that we are getting the heavy aerodynamics. Next up, we have 375 science points. Next up comes a little bit of saving, because then we're going to get the extremely heavy rockets, the big honking chemical engines that we don't strictly need, but could be very nice at some point. Or rather just to make a ludicrous uranium drop from Minmus, something like that. Anyway, we are now at 3 hours from Minmus arrival. And as you can see here in the calendar, the next thing are going to be lots of course corrections for all our Joule and Eeloo missions. I think I'm going to do the Joule Diver correction and the Prospect Eeloo correction off screen between episodes. And then the next episode might focus on the asteroid PLN 449 plus the refueling mission to... yeah, the next episode will do asteroid stuff again. Will be a little bit longer episode. Right, we have 2 days to go until Baryapsis. We can remove this alert. 2 days to go, and then that leaves us with plenty of time to spend to ready these things. Anyway, I'm going to do that off screen. Here we are, a lander. A little bit of backstory. This thing was built. Let's actually put a maneuver node sort of like an alarm clock, so I can not spend Yeah, now I have the time here. This thing was built years ago, back when the space program still intended to land a base piece by piece on Eeloo. Never mind that that would be fiendishly complex, not to mention difficult, to get all these modules landed right next to each other. Nevertheless, when a launch window opened up and there was some spare funding in the program, this thing got sent on its way. It looks small and unassuming now, but there was a big rocket to get this thing on its trajectory, and there is still an almost full fuel tank here. What the bozos at that time did not take into account was that Minmus is on a really, Eeloo is on a really weird orbit, and this takes a lot of delta V to actually, well, I could say establish orbit around, but to meet up with, to circularize around, to dock with. Anyway, let's pop this as a screenshot. Seems like a good bit for the title page. We're approaching rapidly. This should be a GIF or something. Spam screenshots. Bam, 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 bam. I probably could have extracted that from the Fraps recording as well. I might do that. Anyway, here we go. Remember our periapsis, actually, is it good? Our periapsis is at 14 kilometers, so we're going to wait a goodly amount with the burning, because the closer you are to a planet, the more effective your rocket fuel. Still, this is getting a little bit scary, because this thing hasn't been this close to a planet or a thing or anything in its entire life. But if all else fails, we're at least going to get a close look at the Eeloo surface. We're currently at 34 kilometers, and you might be wondering why I'm not turning this to start decelerating. This is because it doesn't have RCS or reaction wheels, it's only the thrusters that move it. So here, Eeloo, this is a prospective home for many Kerbals, many probably as yet unborn Kerbals, but rumor has it that these snows contain carborundum, the fuel of dreams, the stuff of legends, and the motor of the future. This is the reason that many Kerbals will venture out to harvest it, even though their sun, their proud big nuclear sun, looks like this. Tiny, puny, and singular. We are approaching periapsis. Let's then start our descent. Let's actually focus on... We have reached our periapsis. We are now pointing prograde. This is not a good strategy, because we should have started burning before this. Anyway, here we are, full boost now. The worst case scenario now is that we actually decelerate to orbital velocity but crash on the way back, because now our periapsis will already be in the ground. We're still hyperbolic, so not quite yet. I spent too long proselytizing, talking, painting some kind of dramatic picture for the future of Kerbal kind, and now we're overshooting. Oh god. Anyway, we still need to get rid of most of this speed. I had so overestimated the amount of time we'd be spending in Eeloo vicinity. Look at that, we're already receding from it at full speed. Nevertheless, we are down to 1300 meters per second of orbital speed. And I reckon that as soon as we capture, if we are indeed going to capture, I'm going to have to stop thrusting, because our periapsis will be in the ground so hard. Oh god. And it is actually worth capturing, because even though we're not going to have the fuel to land, as should be obvious by now, once we bring our big asteroid-dwelling machine shop colonization program, it will be able to refuel this, and it will have a free base module. Look at that. This is what I meant. We are in orbit, and we are definitely going to crash if we leave it to this. So we're going to warp to apoapsis. This could have been avoided if I just wasn't such an idiot, if I started my burn on time. That's the only thing that could have avoided this. Alright, we need to burn ever so slightly prograde, which we're gonna do from the map view. Would it be crazy to assume, to hypothesize that we may even be able to make a landing happen, even though our fuel is like literally gone? Alright, 13 kilometers again. Oh yes, we've got Orbit Eeloo. Wow, lots of money. Wonderful. I didn't think about that, but of course, that's also a reason why we did this. Cha-ching. This is Eeloo from 700 kilometers. Orbital speed at 700 kilometers is 100 meters per second. So Eeloo may be a bitch to rendezvous with, but itself is really tiny. So our fuel is like non-existent. It's got 40 units of fuel. But I wonder, I probably can't do a fuel-less landing here because I don't have a reaction control system. Also 700 meters per second is just too much. Even though 200 at 700 kilometers is low, also 700 meters per second is very low for a low orbital speed. It's probably too much for the landing legs to absorb. I think that's a fair assessment of the situation. Even though this thing has anchors and we're in warp, so it doesn't have anchors. Even though this thing has anchors, inertial dampeners, and all that fancy stuff, we probably cannot use that to finagle a landing. We can make our orbit a bit lower, but for that I want to... Well, I want to be here. I want to be at Periapsis, not after it. So let's warp there again. A little bit faster. Let's make it the closest orbit we can. At least that resembles a landing. Eeloo is incredibly tiny for a planet. It's more like... It's not even like the moon. It's like Minmus. No, it's not like Minmus. It's like... Is it like the moon? I haven't been to the moon in so long. I know that the Earth moon has a orbital velocity of about 2 kilometers per second, but the Kerbal moon won't. It's a little bit larger than the moon. Yeah, it's probably a little bit larger than the moon. Only slightly though. Let's give it a full thrust. Yeah, 7 by 78. That's a nice and low orbit. Our fuel is now quite literally gone. We have 2 units of it remaining. Let's see that. Let's observe that 7 kilometer altitude flyby. And unfortunately, this is one of those things where my intuitive rocket building has actually failed. The not doing of any calculations whatsoever, just sending stuff to Eeloo has now backfired. Here we are, 7 kilometers. We are very low. It seems to be a nice and flat place. Should be relatively easy to land stuff here and build homes and mines and sweatshops. I think that's about it for now. Let's retract these legs. This can linger here forever until we get around to rescuing it. There's the gully. Eeloo seems very bland. It doesn't seem like it has a high resolution texture maker. It doesn't seem like it has seen a lot of geological activity. Right. So to reiterate, we did put this in Eeloo orbit. That was a success. We can probably take a screenshot of this for the cover. This should be good. Yeah. We tried to land on Eeloo, ran out of fuel doing it. There won't be a video on Sunday. Apologies, but well, gotta go outside and do stuff, which is fun. Probably no video on Wednesday, but hopefully and likely a video next weekend. And after that there should be some holidays, which means lots of family but also no work, so probably get around to making videos in December again. And I will try my best to squeeze a few out here and there. Cool, so thanks for watching. Share everything, hit subscribe, you know the drill. See you for episode 11, where we'll have done the course corrections for these 2 guys and then start hunting this asteroid. Hell yeah. See you then. Goodbye.